If your kick drums don't sound as big and punchy as you want, even if you're layering different sounds, even if you are processing them correctly, it's probably because you're making this one crucial mistake that I will talk about in this video. So in this tutorial, I'm going to share with you what is wrong with common advice you get on kick drum layering, why this is causing so many problems, and also I'm going to reveal the ultimate kick drum layering workflow that is much easier, much more effective, and just sounds better. Make sure to stick around till the end of this video because I'm going to reveal a kick drum mixing chain that will help your kicks cut through the mix even more. If you are new to this channel, my name is Philip from Pick Yourself. I produce, mix and master music professionally for more than 15 years. I do this full-time in my studio in Berlin, and I specialize in electronic music genres like techno, house, electronica, EDM. The reason why I'm doing this channel is because I want to give something back to the community of electronic music producers. I enjoy this aspect a lot. And so I have a free guide for you that's called the Finisher Framework. You can get it at pickyourself.com/framework. And these are my 3 simple steps that you can use to finish at least one great sounding song per month. It's an entire system that you can implement. It's super effective, but still simple. You can get it at pickyourself.com/framework. The link is in the description. When it comes to layering kick drums in electronic music, I've seen a lot of really problematic advice out there. And so I want to dissect first of all what's wrong with some of the typical advice you get on this topic. The first big misconception out there is the following. People think in order to get a great sounding kick drum, you need many different layers that are perfectly designed in certain ways to achieve certain goals. Now, let me share with you what that means. First of all, pay attention to this group here. This is how most tutorials tell you how to layer kick drums. They tell you to create the perfect kick drum out of a ton of different layers. So in this case, a sub layer, so like this, together with one click. But let's be honest, it sounds a bit boring, so we add another click layer like this, and this mid-punch layer that sounds like this. To be fair, this doesn't sound too bad, yeah, and we can get even more out of this if we put on a ton of mixing effects on the group channel that then blends everything together nicely. But here comes the second problem with this approach. The big issue here is that this approach only works with meticulous processing on each individual channel of these different layers. Now, this has consequences, of course. First of all, so many producers get lost in this process of designing the perfect kick drum. They spend hours creating this kick drum before even moving into creating a song idea, which is much more important. And then the second thing is there are second-order consequences to processing each layer. So for example, the time domain, the phase domain, all of this is being affected by the processing on each individual layer. And very often you end up with a kick drum that consists of 5 different layers or even more, but it does not sound coherent and it does not have the impact and punch that a really well-designed kick drum has. So for this kick drum layering approach, you are doing something like this. On the kick sub layer, you, for example, remove the top end completely. And we only keep the part that we actually want from this. Then you add a click sound on top, which sounds like this. Now, together with the sub. Much better already, because this combination works better than the original sample. Now we have the next click layer on top. We filtered out the bottom end. We increased a little bit here. And same holds true for the kick mids. So for the kick mids, I did the following. I filtered out the bottom, I filtered out the top, and I only keep what I actually want, which is this like gnarly mid-range. Let's listen to this in solo. So it's a super nasty kick drum on its own. I don't really like it, but this part is really nice. And so all of these layers together, they need this processing in order to work as one whole. So it sounds like this. But I still feel there is something incoherent about the sound. Now, you could theoretically slap on a glue compressor on the group channel. You could then EQ the whole thing again, process it further and further, add some distortion. But in my opinion, this does not change the fact that this kick drum does not hit as hard as the example that I'm about to show you now. If you got anything out of this so far, consider subscribing to this channel. This gives me an idea that I'm on the right track with this content. Make sure to like that video, subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. In the second half of this video, I'm now going to reveal my workflow for layering kick drums. It's much more simple, but also much more effective. And at the end of the video, I'm also going to reveal my processing chain on top of that. It works wonders for this to cut through the mix. But first of all, I will show you what the weak kick drum in context with music around it sounds like compared to the strong one. here is a solo comparison of the weak kick drum versus the strong one, the two different layering approaches. Now, why the hell does the second kick drum sound so much better? It has the right impact, it has smack, it sounds full, it sounds coherent. Now, here is my kick drum layering workflow for you. My recommendation for you is KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. I only use 2 kick drum layers, maybe 3 at a maximum, but 2 kick drum layers has a ton of advantages. Those 2 layers are the punch layer and the character layer. Now, I'm going to walk you through what that is. I always start the kick drum sound design process with the punch layer, and this can be a sample or this can be a designed kick drum where I synthesize it. But the goal of this is to just provide the speaker with the information to move accurately and produce the bass energy and the smack that I wanted to produce. This is really important, and this is very different from the incoherent approach that we had in the first weaker kick drum example. So the punch layer is this fundamental information, but what's really important here is I don't cut it in any strange way. If there's like just way too much click in a sample, I might reduce that a little bit, but that is it. I'm not just filtering out the sub-frequencies or anything. I want this to move in the desired way. And this is why I meticulously curate my secret weapon sound library. I only have super strong samples in there, and also when I design a kick drum and synthesize it, I also save starting point presets of myself with kick drums that have this exact information that I want the speaker to produce. Now, this would also be the layer that you can tune to exactly the fundamental note of your song. In my opinion, this is a little bit overrated. Sometimes different notes work well and create an interesting contrast in the song, but still produce enough energy. So this is just up to taste, but this would be the layer that you definitely try to tune. The punch layer often is more clean sounding compared to the character layer, because the character layer is the second one that I add on top of this. This is providing me the grit, the edginess, the character, as the name says, that I want this kick drum to have. So I have a super nice punch, and then I infuse some character to it to also make the kick drums in different sounds sound different. What's really important to note here, both of these layers individually are fully working kick drums. So let me play them for you. So both of them would work on their own as kick drums, but together they create something stronger. Now, how does all of this make sense? First of all, you need your own secret weapon sound library that is organized in a way that lets you easily access the punch layers and the character layers. So you can immediately grab some of the great sounding samples and you pick some that just naturally work well together, without tons of processing, without shaping them in any weird way. You throw them in there and it sounds great together. Next step is to check the phase relationship and just make sure that they are not phasing out. So if you're inexperienced and you don't know what this sounds, let me show this to you. All you need to do is put a utility plugin on one of the 2 layers and you check what it sounds like with the phase normal, like this, versus this. Now, interestingly, here those 2 layers work well together in both settings. The second one with the flip phase is slightly less impactful in the low end, so I will deactivate it. But with some of those combinations, you find out that actually the flip phase sounds much stronger than the other one. This is all you need to do to make sure that the phase relationship is good. If it's sounding weird and you're missing impact in the low end, if you flip the phase, but also if you don't flip the phase and just use another sample, it's just not worth it to continue. The only processing I might do on one of those 2 channels is to remove something that I really don't like. If I, for example, like the impact of the punch layer, but I want to get rid of this super aggressive click sound on the top end, I might slap on an EQ, figure out it's somewhere around here, and then maybe do something like this, use a high cut and filter a little bit of that out. Now together with the rest. So this is a preference that I can choose song by song. In some songs it makes sense to have a little bit more of this top end adding to the character layer. Sometimes it doesn't. Here it really doesn't make any sense. I leave it off and I might reduce it later on when I blend in the full song. So the kick drum sounds nice on its own, but what happens if we add in more and more elements? Well, naturally it will not cut through as much as it originally did. So as I've promised you, I will show you some kick drum processing on top of that. Let's bring in some of the other channels first. So to be honest with you, it works really well even though stuff is unmixed yet. And also all the other layers, all the other instruments, there's like zero mixing going on because the sound design itself is quite strong and the sample selection. But yeah, we can still take this to the next level, and that is what we're about to do right now. We will first of all start with a clipping plugin, and there's, by the way, a free version of this one out there that has limited functionality, but it still sounds great. Now, I will use the crisp setting here, which is a special type of AD converter clipping that is being emulated here. I like the gritty character of this, and we'll just shave off some of the transients of the kick drum and make sure that it blends in nicely overall. So I don't know if you can hear it on your headphones or in your studio, but to me this adds a really nice little extra punch there. Let's move on to the next element. On kick drums, I like channel strips. Now, I could do the typical thing, I'm only showing you stock plugins, whatever, but we're here to have fun, so I'm just gonna show you what I like to use here. And that is an SSL channel strip, which I personally like grabbing the signal with, especially in the compressor. The compressor is what you see here. Right now it's doing a little bit too much, so I can adjust it here. Slower ratio, adjusting the threshold a bit, putting the release even faster. So as you can see, I like tickling things in the audio world. So all of this is not doing so much on its own, but the combination of those different processes make a lot of sense and give the kick drum much more impact overall. Now, I'm quite happy with the frequency content. I think it has a nice low end. It also cuts through on the top end a little bit. I might give it gentle nudges here and there. So a good kick drum frequency to try out is 120 Hertz, for example, or 130 to get a little bit of extra punch. Let's try this out. So 1.6 dB added, this is not a lot, but it still, to me, sounds good. Sometimes you want to reduce around the 200 and 300, 400 region if you have too much low-mid stuff piling up. I don't feel like this is the case here. So I'm just going to walk through the high mid-range and give it a little bit of extra smack there. So see what I did here? I pushed it really hard, figured out what the frequency is, and then dialed it back. So now it's just adding 2 dB here. Here I don't add any additional top end. I think it's enough. If I push this, it's just gonna sound weird. I don't really like this. And overall, I'm pretty happy already with the results. Maybe bring this back, see before and after. So without the channel strip. And that's pretty much it. You can then slap on a limiter after that if you feel like you want to control the transients even more. But to be honest with you, I'm quite happy with the result. I think it sounds great in context. It is elevated a little bit. It cuts through a bit more aggressively without kind of swamping the song with kick drum sounds. So yeah, that is it for this one. Now, if you work a lot with 909 samples or 808 samples, I get it. A lot of processing is typically necessary to make them sound great. So I've made a video specifically about 909 kicks here that you can check out. It helps you select good samples, but also process them in meaningful ways. And I hope you get something out of this as well. Now, before you leave, please leave a comment below and let me know what you got out of this. What did you learn? And is there something that you would like to add? Do you have any follow-up questions? Just leave a comment below. I'm really active in the comments. I like to help people also there. And I will see you in the next video soon.